Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 254, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. I go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week and everything in between. But before I get started, I do want to plug my Kickstarter for Father Like Daughter. It's our trade, and it's about a high school girl. Her father left her to become a full-time superhero. Everyone in the world loves him except for her, and then she inherits his abilities. So hopefully you guys could go check that out. We are super close to our goal for that. Now, talking about this week's books, I have 15 books this week. Not that much. It's kind of a small week for me. And number 15 was Wonder Woman, issue 53. Just not feeling this arc, and I just feel like it's very filler until Wilson takes over. The one moment I did like from this issue was Artemis having her arm on fire because of the arrow. I thought that was cool. And also, I guess the small conversation we get between Artemis and Wonder Woman about leaving Themyscira was nice, but it's just really small moments and honestly a pretty bogged down, boring issue for me. But the artwork is pretty good for the book as well, so nothing horrible, but like I said, I personally just couldn't get into this one, so giving that 2 stars. Moving on to number 14, which is Detective Comics issue 987. Love this cover. But just haven't been able to get into The Outsiders. And I like Cassandra especially a lot as a character, so I want to like this story, but it feels fillerish. Also, waiting for another creator slash creative team to jump onto the book. So it's all filler stuff until we get there. And now we know this is launching into another series, which is Batman the Outsiders. Hopefully, they are able to finesse the team a little bit more, because I don't really feel like they are a team right now, and I know maybe they didn't have an opportunity to do that here, but hopefully in their own book I could feel more of a connection with these characters and with each other, hopefully. Artwork is pretty solid overall, like it usually is with Detective Comics, so that is solid for the issue. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars, just kind of a forgettable issue for me. Alright, moving on to number 13, which is Betty and Veronica Vixens, issue 9. We're almost finished with this series. I do like the concept of, you know, rebel girls driving motorcycles, but I think it is getting to the end now. Honestly, all this issue is Veronica trying to choose. Should I go to my father, or should I, you know, stick with my motorcycle gang? And she obviously makes the decision to go with her gang, but it takes a while to get there, and I didn't feel like the inner turmoil was portrayed interestingly for me. And also the artwork for me is not really my style. I think it's very soft, and I'd rather it be a little bit more cartoonier for this artwork. I don't really like the facial expressions that much, or at least tougher. It doesn't feel like it fits the tone of the book very well. So I've always had an issue with the artwork for that series though. But I am going to see it through because, like I said, it's almost done. So that's number 13, and I gave that 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 12, which is X-Men Gold, issue 34. And Storm story, I think you're just going to keep hearing this word because it so far has been filler, right? They're ending the series right now, and I just could not connect to Storm's story at all. The small moment I liked in this issue was Ileana and Kitty's moment, but it's like 2 pages and also doesn't really fit the issue. It felt kind of like this random scene. It's like, oh, I kind of want to talk about Kitty now, and it just, why? It didn't make sense. It seemed like Storm's story, and maybe it needed more pages to flesh out what was going on in that story. But the artwork is very good for the book. At least I enjoy this art style, so that I liked, but wasn't really into the issue. So I'm going to give that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is Justice League Dark, issue 2. So I'm not a magic person, but I do like Zatanna, and I do like Wonder Woman. So that's something that's been making me stay with this series, and I like them again here. I really like their interaction, especially Wonder Woman, like kind of being in a more vulnerable place in this issue, and I liked her past with seeing magic and how that relates to Themyscira, so I like that. But I also feel like a lot of times with Tynion, he bogs stuff down with his dialogue, with how much he wants to fit in a story, and you feel that here too. Too many characters, too much plot going on, and the dialogue is very bogged down, which is why this is a little lower for me. I don't know how long I'll stick with this series, but it gave me enough to see where issue 3 goes at least. So I'm going to give this one 3 stars, and the artwork is, once again, very good. I love the paper quality for this book as well, and the artwork is probably my favorite aspect of the book. Moving on to number 10, which is Hunt for Wolverine, Mystery in Madripoor, issue 4. At least this series for Hunt for Wolverine is not worst pick of the week like it has been. The other Hunt for Wolverine series, and probably some issues from here. But if you're a Psylocke fan, you might like this issue, I guess. It's kind of a weird issue where you get to see different versions of Psylocke, and her very convoluted past is touched upon, which didn't really feel like why in this issue. You know, Psylocke has been a main character in other series, like why not do it there? I don't really understand why it had to be this issue, and it kind of comes out of left field, which is why it is lower on the list, or at least more mediocre. But it's interesting stuff, I guess, that they tackle, and I thought the artwork was improved a little bit in the beginning of the series. But then you're left on this cliffhanger, and I'm like, oh, well, where are you going to get this continues? So that's something that's been a problem for my Hunt for Wolverine miniseries stuff is, first of all, A, there's not a lot of Wolverine, and B, they keep leaving you off on these cliffhangers, and are they even going to be approached in the one shot? Is that only going to be Wolverine's story? We don't know, and they don't really tell you either. So overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. Like I said, there's some interesting stuff with Psylocke, but I don't think this was the right place to tell it. So moving on to number 9, which is Jughead and the Hunger, issue 8. Interesting issue, weird issue. It's not in the point of view of our main characters. Instead, it's this journalist talking about the werewolf legacy of Riverdale, and finally we get to our main characters and like gets to the point of the story. It's weird. It's kind of in the middle because I'm like, cool that they did something different and something creative, but at the same time I wasn't as interested as I usually am with the Jughead series. So also I felt like the artwork, you know, this is the same artist, but the first artist didn't feel as similar to Yzma, maybe because usually Yzma starts the issue and then it goes into that artist. Just kind of felt weird in this one. So I'm going to give this 3 stars. Not the best issue, but at least they did something different. That's something I liked about it. So that was number 9. Moving on to number 8, we're getting out of that 3-star level and going to 3.5 stars now with Hack and Slash Resurrection, issue 10. Probably the best issue I've read in a while for Hack and Slash, and we get to see Vampirella definitely in the mix here, which I don't know how Vampirella fans are going to feel about the ending of this issue, but I love just how, you know, Cassie and her partner just being bros. That's a weird way to say, even though they're not bros, but you know what I mean. Being bros, being friends, and saying, hey, you know, I like this girl, but, you know, there's definitely some trouble that's attached to her, and they're both trying to figure out if they should trust Vampirella with all this other vampire madness going on. And then in the end of the issue, it doesn't seem like you can trust Vampirella. The artwork still is kind of abstract and weird with the proportions, and that's kind of been a problem for me, but overall, as you read the series, you kind of get used to it. So I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. I thought this was a lot better of a story than we've been getting, like I said, and it's finding a bit more of a direction. Like in the previous issues, I didn't feel like it had. Moving on to number 7, which is Witchblade, issue 7. This is a new arc, and finally we're getting some Witchblade action. Very happy about that. Previously it just was really slow to get there, and I really love Alex. You know, that's why I'm attached to this series. I like her voice a lot, and I still like her voice a lot here, but we need her to, like, do more Witchblade stuff, and I think it's because of the artwork as well. I love the expressions for the art, but the Witchblade stuff, it doesn't feel as action-packed. I don't know, it feels small, and it doesn't feel as epic, the action, and I hope that grows as the series goes on, and Alex kind of figures out her powers more. So that's still a negative, is that I don't feel like it's at its fullest of the Witchblade stuff they could be doing, but I do feel like Alex is getting more comfortable with it, and it's trying to find a balance between Witchblade stuff and Alex drama. So it's getting there. But I do like this series, and like I said, I do like Alex a lot, and I like the stories going on with her previous friend / boyfriend. I don't know if they went out, but her previous friend who died. So those stuff are really interesting. So Witchblade issue 7, I was looking for the number, issue 7 got 3.5 stars. I thought, it's getting better. Number 6 is The Flash, issue 53. This issue, I liked the new twist on the rogues. I thought that was kind of cool. I especially love Iris in this issue. I like that Iris is remembering that she was married to Barry, but can't say anything about it. Also love this artwork. I wish this was the artist that we usually get, because I just think it's so good. The expressions, the coloring, the inking, everything's perfect for the for this artwork. I just love the intensity, especially for a story that has to do with like villains and Barry himself getting like big muscles. It just worked with this really heavy inked artwork. I really liked it. So the actual rogue story, there's times where I'm like, oh, where is this going? And it kind of feels fillerish, but I liked the funness and in the nice twist that they had with, you know, classic Flash villains. And like I said, I like the Iris stuff as well. So The Flash issue 53 gets 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Action Comics issue 1002. Some good stuff here. I like the artwork a lot more. It's the same artist, but I really think Gleason has improved. It's less cartoony. Really has worked on the inking, or maybe it's a different inker. Let me see who does the inking for this. Let's see. Yeah, I think he's the inker for it too. So he's light in the inking. So I like that a lot, and I like the coloring a lot too. So I think the artwork has improved a lot from his previous work on Superman. And I like some of the little twists that Bendis brings of stuff we know about Superman, like, oh, it's a bird, it's a plane, and then you see someone falling. And I thought, I was like, whoa, that's how you open up an issue. Of course it's connected to the stupid fire story, but that's the part I'm like, I don't know how to feel. But I liked how Clark is figuring out what this is all about through his journalism, and not even as Superman. So this is actually more of a Clark Kent story, and him still dealing with the drama of his wife and not knowing where she is and why hasn't she contacted him, and then you actually see them come face to face by the end of the issue. So I like that stuff, and I think there's some really good build up. There's some characters we haven't seen in a while, like Guardian and Cat Grant showing up, so I thought this was a solid issue, even with the fires. So I'm gonna give that 4 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is The Legend of Korra, Turf Wars Part 3. I talked about this in-depthly with my review, so I won't go too far in depth here, but solid story. I really liked Korra and Asami's character growth here, and I guess relationship growth in this story, and overall I like the concept of the villain, even though I wish he was fleshed out a bit more like we've seen in the television shows. I like Irene Co's style of art, or at least, you know, the world building of her art, but I do think some of her line work is very light, and it affects the facial expressions at times. But I hope we get to see more Legend of Korra, because I really am invested, obviously, in this franchise and in the story. I think they are jumping to another medium in a cool way and in a good way, just like the other Avatar comics. So I'm going to give that one 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 4, just another really fun issue. The Sentinel guy, I forget his name, and I love that they're saying in the issues, like, I know you don't know who this guy is, but he is Mendel Storm. He is Norman Osborn's assistant who went evil. And it's like, oh, alright, that guy. So I like that, but at the same time, I don't really care about his story. And at least right now, it kind of feels like, alright, well, we're dealing with the other Spider-Man stuff. I like that a lot more than this Sentinel guy. We'll see if it combines at all, but right now it feels a little bit too separated and just another thing that Peter has to deal with. But really like Peter's story here. I love the humor, and one thing I really noticed with this issue is that Slot's run kind of tended to go really silly when it did do the humor, and this is just like the perfect line. It's not too silly. It feels like the one note, oh, I'm gonna tell this joke, but let's get serious again. So I like that. Maybe because it's Peter Parker being split up and the actual Peter Parker not being as funny, but the stuff he does is kind of funny in this. But even just like some of the small jokes with Spider-Man having brand names on him and gonna be on The Bachelor, I thought it was hysterical. So a really solid issue. I just been really enjoying this run so far, and the artwork is epic. It's so good. And even though I didn't like the Sentinel story, look how epic that Sentinel looks. So I like that type of stuff. And let me see how it ended. It did end on like a kind of ominous point here where our villain is talking to someone. Is it Green Goblin? We don't know, but it hints to that, but I have a feeling that's probably a red herring. So that is our cliffhanger. So yeah, I don't know about the Sentinels if they should have had in this issue, but also the paper quality is actually pretty good for this too. Maybe Marvel's changing their paper quality a bit. I don't know, it feels different. Anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna give this one 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is The Life of Captain Marvel, issue 2. And I've been really pleasantly surprised with this series. I haven't been able to get into a Captain Marvel book in a really long time, and this is probably one of the best Captain Marvel stories I've ever read. And I really liked her Miss Marvel run from way back, like early 2000s or mid 2000s. I enjoyed that, or mid 2000s, like 2005, I mean, when I say mid 2000s. But, anyways, I like that run. I haven't liked the other stuff, but this is so good. Just the emotions we get to see with the Danvers family and how complex those emotions are. You know, Carol, you know, talking to her friend, which I like that we got to see that friend, you know, what it was like for Carol to grow up and that she had other people to talk to, but, you know, she talks to him and says, hey, do I tell my mom about this letter that my dad was cheating? And it seems like the mother knew a lot more than Carol did by the end. So it's, you know, Carol kind of figuring out what her childhood was, but also figuring out these emotions of, you know, what is my relationship with my family? Because they hit a lot of stuff. They hit a lot of emotions especially. So, but at the moment there's 2 moments I really liked from this issue, and that was the funeral moment. And it really shows how complicated the relationship is between Carol and her father, where she says, my father, Pops, he was a worthy opponent. That's something you say about your dad. That's crazy. And then the other moment that I absolutely loved in this issue was Joe waking up. And I guess Carol's going to drop everything again because she's happy to have her brother again. So we'll see where that goes, but it shows even though they left stuff on a really bad terms, when, you know, it's Carol who says, bye, I love you, he wants, you know, he wakes up and utters the words, I love you too. He needs to say that. So I really, really like that, and I can't wait to see where their relationship ends up going. Some really good artwork too. I like the new look for Captain Marvel, and I like how Captain Marvel, you know, / Carol is just falling into this pattern again, you know, something we hadn't seen, but her like slipping into her Boston accent and just saying, oh, this is my childhood room, it's kind of weird that I live here again, and you really shouldn't live in your childhood room again. So I like that. It's kind of strange and cool to go into that story. So I really like how much depth there is in this story. My only negative and why it wasn't number 1 is the villain didn't really feel like it fit here. I wish they either had less scenes with the villain or honestly just saved it for next issue and say, hey, I'm here, I'm on this planet, because it just like kept weaving in and out and like, why do I care about her? Go back to Carol. So we'll see where that ends up going, but I really like this issue. Gonna give that 4.5 stars. Moving on to number 1, which I also have done a review on, and that was West Coast Avengers issue 1, and damn, I had fun with this issue. If you are a Kate Bishop fan or you are a fan of Thompson's Hawkeye run, this feels like a great sequel, but different too. It's not completely like Hawkeye, but it was a great sequel, and love the comedy, and this is exactly how you should do a team book. It introduces the team. The way they are brought together is very organic. I felt like I knew everyone's voices by the end of issue 1, and you set up for some really cool adventures. So I had a blast reading this one, and I can't wait to read more. So I'm going to give that one 4.5 stars, and that is number 1. That is my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later.